Hey Sydney,
Hey Samuel.
how do you feel about the pizza at Pastel's?
It's really good. I really liked the crust.
What if I told you that Donald Trump said it's the best pizza in Manhattan?
Well, if it's good enough for Donnie. No, I'm just kidding.
Glad you're here on this Sunday. I'm going to get right into the message. I'm going to tell it like it is, as they say. Oh, I heard a hallelujah. Do you think I don't know what the hell is going on? And a lot of strange places. Where in the hell have you been? Hell fire. Hell fire. Hell fire. All right. Okay. There's something else, too.
Hello and welcome to the Satire Fire Podcast, your premier destination for Manhattan-based pizza reviews. I am Samuel.
I'm Sydney.
And this week we are doing part 3, our final part on American Psycho by Brett Easton Ellis. If you haven't been with us for the whole series, part 1 was a plot synopsis, so if you have not read the book before and don't plan on reading it, or if it's been a while since you've read it and you just want to get brushed up, go and listen to part 1. We'll break down the book so that you kind of know what's going on. Part 2 was a context episode about the book where we talked about Brett Easton Ellis's background, how he got to a point where he was writing the book, as well as some of the history of the themes in the book. So talking about yuppies and yuppieism, talking about Bobos and PMCs, all of those really fun guys to hang out with at your local bar. And now, this week, we're going to be taking both of those things, putting them together, and finally reviewing and analyzing this book. Talking about what is this book saying, what is it commenting on, is it doing so effectively, and how much do we like it? And then at the end of the episode, we will take the time to rank it on our ever-expanding list of every satirical book ever written. But before we do any of that, Sydney, is there anything that you have been doing or reading or watching or thinking about or eating, I guess? We've done eating before, that you'd like to tell people about this week?
So recently, I've been having trouble sleeping. If everyone wanted to know that. And I've been trying to find things to help me go to sleep. It's just falling asleep. I'm good once I'm asleep, but usually, I don't know, I wake up a few times, but I've been trying to find things to help me go to sleep, and I've been putting one AirPod in and playing ambient sounds or music or what. I've tried different things, but I found this playlist. This is so embarrassing, that has been helping, and it's called Harry Potter Sleep.
What the fuck does that mean?
It's all these either recreate, so it's not the original scores of the movies, but it's these, I don't know what you would call them, musical groups that have both taken and made their own covers of music from the Harry Potter movies, but also just have a bunch of fantasy inspired songs.
Okay.
And the other night I listened to it all night on accident, and I have this app called Airbuds where you can see what you've been listening to, and also you can see what your friends have been listening to. And so it's insane. Let me read you some of the titles. Forest Atmosphere by Celtic Traveler. Reunion of Friends from Harry Potter by Harmony Tales. Luna by Fantasy Village. Concerning Hobbits from The Lord of the Rings. Fantasy Novel by Celtic Traveler. A Journey to Hogwarts by Eldenwood. Enchanted Town, Elven Forest, Calm Fantasy, Lily's Theme, Harry and Ginny, A Magical Place, Adventure Awaits. And it's just for 6 hours I was listening to songs like that. I was this is so embarrassing. People are going to see that that's what I did. But it's honestly been helping if I'm having a hard time falling asleep. I try to listen to it until I get like pretty sleepy and I think I'm gonna doze off soon, and then I stop it. But it's very funny. They kind of sound like if you're playing a video game, maybe like Legends of Zelda type video game. It's kind of open world, quests, things like that. And it's just like the background music that's playing while you're like traveling through the land. But it also is like if you're at an amusement park and you're like waiting for like 2 hours in line for a ride, and it's like the music they're playing, like that's what it it's so funny.
I can't wait for you to get to your Spotify Wrapped for the year, and your number one most listened to track is POV You Were in Potions Class ASMR Harry Potter.
Like, so I've never done something like this. It's fantasy heaven. You're like, who are these bands? Like fantasy, or not bands, musical harmony tells. Celtic? I guess it's Celtic. I was thinking of Celtics, the basketball team. Celtic Traveler, Harmony Tales, Eldenwood, like Fantasy Village. Like, who are these people? What are they doing?
Not even real. Like, they're just not real.
Yeah, it's like AI. Like, I don't even know what I'm listening to. But it's like, I don't know, I tried, like, I can listen to like rain sound. That's what I usually, like, if I stay in a hotel and I need to sleep, I will play like rain sounds, like a YouTube rain sounds video. But I discovered this recently, and I discovered it through an Instagram ad that was like, listen to this playlist.
Damn, you got targeted.
Like, how do you know?
You're not immune to propaganda.
No, but that's like, I think the most embarrassing story I could possibly tell. So there you go, guys. That's Harry Potter Sleep on Spotify, and probably Apple Music as well. I don't know.
Check it out.
It doesn't support J.K. Rowling, I don't think. Well, I'm sure she maybe gets royalties from them using the music, like the cover. I don't really know.
Yeah,
because
if you are a lawyer and you know about copyright royalties law, chime in the comments. Are we supporting a transphobe by listening to ASMR?
Because also the songs from the movies, the score is not like, she didn't write those songs, so I'm like, maybe it doesn't at all, but I'm not really sure. So anyways,
awesome.
Have you been listening to any new playlists?
No, I'm going to take a page out of your book, and I'm going to talk about something I did recently.
Ooh.
A couple of weeks back, my partner and I went to Rose City Comic-Con, which is a annual event in Portland, a Comic-Con event where, if you're not familiar with Comic-Con, they have a bunch of different vendors set up that are like artists, or they are makers, or just they sell something nerd adjacent, like comics or dice or minifigurines or like all kinds of different stuff. So they have a huge floor full of these vendors that you can go and check out, and a lot of people wear cosplays, which are just costumes of their favorite characters, and they have competitions based around that. And they also have panels where people who are like involved in the industry in some way of like movies or books or TV shows get the opportunity to talk about the things that they are involved in. Or occasionally, instead of people involved, it's just people who are involved in the critiquing or reviewing of those various properties. So one of the things that I saw, I didn't actually attend it, but I just saw it on the schedule, was they had a live podcast with these people who were horror movie fans, I believe, and they were doing a talking session about a specific nerd fandom horror movie that they were interested in. And so out of curiosity, I looked them up, and they, as a podcast, only had like 5 episodes. Which totally, I'm so glad that they were able to get in and do something that they enjoyed. But that opened up the door for me of, we've got way more than 5 episodes.
Yeah.
You should invite us to come and we'll talk about some nerd-ass books.
Yeah, honestly, any conference, any bookstore across the country, any university that wants us to be your keynote speakers. At
Yeah, I'll give a commencement address, no problem.
If you want. No, we have 26 episodes, but by the time you're listening
6
to this,
months.
we'll have 28.
Yeah.
So.
So if you're an organizer for Rose City Comic Con and you want to pay for Sydney and Mai's accommodation next year, just hit me up, let me know. We'll talk about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or something like that. That's some satirical nerd shit.
Mm-hmm. American Psycho, I mean, if we're
going horror, yeah, absolutely.
Cult following, especially the movie. We can talk about the movie too, you know.
Yeah.
This is our pitch.
Yeah, I'm just gonna clip this out and email somebody. I don't know who yet, but I'll email
Cold
them.
emails.
But now that we're done shilling and trying to get free access to Comic-Cons, let's talk about what we're actually here to talk about today, which is the book American Psycho by Brett Easton Ellis. So I kind of wanted to start broad, as we typically do, work more narrow and specific. Mm-hmm. So in broad terms, how do you feel about this book? Did you like it? Was it too much? Was it not enough? Like, I feel like this is a very polarizing book. And so I'm curious where you fell on the spectrum, particularly considering going into it, I knew you don't love horror thriller genre.
Yeah. I do read thrillers sometimes, but more so as like a palate cleanser book, just that's something quick, easy, and like, but I don't really, the only horror I've ever really liked is like some Stephen King. I do like Stephen King, but even like I've never tried to read it, or like Pet Sematary? Is that the one? Mm-hmm. Some of the ones that I think will be like a bit more intense. Also, it's just so large, and I'm like, why would I read that? But I didn't like it, but I liked elements of it, and I did respect it as like a piece of literature.
Okay. So are you saying like in the manner of like you didn't enjoy it, but you think it was a good book?
Yeah. I think it's a good book. I would change some things about it. Like if I was writing this book, if I was writing advice for Brett Easton Ellis.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, Brett Easton Ellis, I know you're wildly successful, but here's some notes.
No, I would change some things about it. I think kind of similarly to what you were saying about Her Body and Other Parties, that you could understand why someone would really like it, but it wasn't for you. I felt like that. Like, I just feel like I'm not the right audience for this book. I mean, not that, like, I think it's a broader range of intended audience than Her Body and Other Parties. But that being said, like, just based on my personal tastes, it's not, I think, a book for me. But I liked it more than I thought I would. I kind of went into it thinking I'd, like, hate it, so.
Nice. I was worried that you would hate it.
That's good. I also, like, I listened to it as an audiobook.
Yeah, speak on that experience.
I'm not an audiobook fan. I'm a huge advocate for audiobooks as, like, a form of reading, because sometimes it's hard to find time to sit down with a book, depending on, like, especially, like, I don't know, if you're a working parent and you want to, like, read, but you've got, like, full-time job and a full-time job of being a parent at home. Like, it's a really accessible way to read without having to, like, find the time to sit with the book in your hand.
Yeah.
Or an e-reader or whatever. But I personally have a hard time, like, focusing on audiobooks. And, like, I just find myself, like, having listened for several minutes and then having no idea what I just listened to.
Yeah.
This one, this actually helped me. I ended up listening to it on 1.5 speed. Which I don't think I would recommend, probably. But if you really, like, were struggling through either the violence or the repetitiveness of, like, the mundane aspects of Patrick Bateman's life, the 1.5 speed really helped me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I guess for this book, like, maybe if you're someone who's interested in reading it, but you're, like, a little worried about if you can handle the gruesome depictions of violence or whatever, I think I would recommend the audiobook.
Yeah, that's a tip that I picked up from Overdue Pod, who also did an episode about this book, where one of them, I can't remember which of the hosts said it, but one of them talked about consuming this book via audiobook, and that as opposed to reading it physically, it allows you to distance yourself a little bit more from the character, and also you can just kind of, like, tune out a little bit whenever things are getting a little bit too hairy for your liking. So that was something that I had suggested to Sid, and I would recommend it to the audience too.
There was one scene, like, I just, like, skipped forward a bit. I was like, you know what, I can't keep listening to that. And so, like, I think that I would also recommend that. I did have a hard time finding the audiobook. I tried getting it through my library, but they didn't have it in English. I'm not really sure if this is just, like, an ownership, like, rights to this book type thing, but they didn't have it through Libby, would totally recommend Libby to anyone who wants to utilize your local library but doesn't want to visit it. You can get, like, ebooks and audiobooks through Libby. But I ended up having to get, like, a free trial of Audible, so I'm wondering if Audible has, like, the rights to the audiobook. So that's, like, one potential barrier. I mean, you can find it, like, on YouTube, like, pirated or something, but do you call it pirated when it's not a movie or a show?
Yeah, it's still pirating, but I don't think that would be pirating. It would just be like a bootleg version, probably.
Oh, yeah, like just someone reading it. But yeah, and so that was, like, a little complicated. If you have Audible, then it should be easy, but I did not, so.
Yeah, so I'm curious, if we weren't reading it for the podcast, do you think you would have finished it?
No.
When do you think you would have given up on it?
I probably would have given up around the Bethany section.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep. That one's tough.
I think I'd have been like, all right, I think I get the point. And I do actually think I got the point by then. Like, I don't know that, like, I needed to keep... the ending is cool. I kind of liked the ending. But, yeah, I don't know that I would have gotten through it.
I feel like I agree with you. And I think that Ellis himself has kind of said some stuff to the effect of this. And I think I mentioned something similar in the first episode. But I believe that the way that this book is supposed to work is by stacking over the course of time until it eventually just, like, crescendos as a result, not necessarily of the movement of the plot in a specific direction, but more of you've just become too bogged down in what's going on for you to ignore what he's saying anymore. And so I think that this is a book where if you get to a point where you're like, I get it, but I don't need to read anymore, you can just stop, and you got it. You understand the point of the book from that section. Like, as long as you make it past the scene where he is accosting the homeless person about why he doesn't have a job, I think that's the
Oh,
first
yeah.
scene where it gets violent and also is very explicitly telling you what this
Yeah.
book is about. If you get to that, turn it off. You got it. You you know what the rest of the book's gonna be.
I kind of like most of the violence. I was like, ugh. But the Paul Owen part was kind of funny to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I would.
You heard it here first, folks. Violence against women, boo. Violence against men,
Yeah, Paul
yay.
Owen. Hate that guy. The Fisher account. I wanted the Fisher account.
God damn him in that Fisher account. But I think that leads us pretty nicely into talking about the themes. Like, what is it that we get out of the book that you can get out of it relatively early, or you can stick through to the end and, like, really have it driven home. So, like, for me, the big themes that are coming out of this book are opposing capitalism, the ways in which a consumer society strips you of an internality by pushing a focus on image, and also the ways in which you kind of have to become a shell of a person in order to exist in a society that is so heavily focused on those material things, capitalist things, consumerist things, stuff like that. Was there anything big picture that you got out of it other than that, or smaller details that you wanted to point out?
I think that, yeah, I agree with you. I also think that because of the absurd, this is like a smaller point, and maybe like what he meant by being like it's a feminist novel, but because of like the absurdity with how the men talk about women and treat women, and the like just exaggerated nature of like how just like stupid and like hollow all the women are and like have no personality. I think that in its own way like that's a critique of the way maybe society at that time, but also today as well, like sexualizes and treats women and views women. So
Yeah.
I see that in it, and I also see why someone could be like, all right, maybe we didn't have to do it this way. Like, so, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely get that. Like, it's definitely saying a lot about the way that bodies become disposable under capitalism, and specifically female bodies become objects more than anything else. Like, you don't have use as a woman in this society beyond you're a hard body, and
Yeah.
you can be used to sell something, or, well, I mean, that's really it. You can be used to sell something. Either you're selling a product to someone else, or a man is using you to sell the idea that he is successful because he has a beautiful woman on his arm. Like, I think that it's definitely got that messaging in there, and the violence within it is just kind of showing the way in which the system is violent towards women in particular. Like, there are some instances where he's violent towards men,
Yeah.
but they're few and far between. Like,
And
the
it's usually
broad
specific
strokes, it's
men.
women.
Yeah. And just in general about how, like, the capitalist and, like, consumerist society is built for a specific type of person, like yuppies, and not built for people of color, people who are not born in America, women, queer people. Like, it's not for any of these people. It's only for like white wealthy men. Is kind of like, yeah,
Definitely. And so I wanted to point out a couple of scenes that I thought were relevant. I talked about some of them during the plot synopsis, but beyond just elements that are proving the themes in one way or another, there's a couple of sequences in the book which are highlighting the internal struggle that is happening inside of Pat Bateman. And I think that those are some of the more illuminating parts of the book when it comes to its interpretation, because it's kind of doing the George Orwell saying what he actually means sections, where the rest of the book, Pat Bateman is behaving in a very specific way, and you're meant to interpret from his actions and the whole situation that it's taking place in what is being said. These scenes in which he's having to reflect on who he is as a person makes it significantly easier to just say, oh, this is about being a piece of shit who has a lot of money. So the first one is when he and Evelyn are in the lake house or the beach house for the summer, and they are slowly drifting apart, and he's slowly having to grapple with his inner demons because he doesn't have the distractions that come from living in New York and the benefits that you can find there. But it says, everything failed to subdue me. Soon everything seemed dull. Another surprise, the lives of heroes, falling in love, war, the discoveries people made about each other. The only thing that didn't bore me, obviously enough, was how much money Tim Price made, and yet in its obviousness it did. There wasn't a clear, identifiable emotion within me, except for greed and possibly total disgust. I had all the characteristics of a human being, flesh, blood, skin, hair, but my depersonalization was so intense, had gone so deep, that the normal ability to feel compassion had been eradicated, the victim of a slow, purposeful erasure. I was simply imitating reality, a rough semblance of a human being with only a dim corner of my mind functioning. Something horrible was happening, and yet I couldn't figure out why. I couldn't put my finger on it. The only thing that calmed me was the satisfying sound of ice being dropped into a glass of J&B. Where it's showing how empty all of this is. He is spending so much of his time focusing on his appearance and focusing on his identity that he's putting out to other people, because those are the things that are supposed to be important in this world. And yet there's no amount of skincare routine that can make you feel like life is worth living. Like, there's no amount of money you can spend on an apartment that is going to then result in you having a fulfilled life.
Do you think that this, I feel like I would describe like Patrick Bateman and also just all the characters, well, not all, but like is a bit like nihilistic. I can never say that word. Nihilistic. How do you say that?
Nihilistic.
It's not nihilistic?
Yeah, just like a nihilist. Nihilistic.
Nihilistic. I feel like I would describe them as nihilistic. Like, I feel like they just don't have any, like, they're just so empty. They don't have feeling about much, and what they do like proclaim to have feeling about is really fleeting. And they don't, like, for Pat, like his moral sense of morality is basically non-existent. He talks about murders and like wanting or actually committing acts of violence against people the same way he talks about music and the videotapes he watches and the Patty Winter Show. Like, same tone, same. Yeah. And sometimes at the same time he's talking about these things. And I don't know, do you think that like the critique is that a capitalist society, the state of society as it is right now, is leading us into just a complete rejection of value and moral and purpose, and we'll just become like a nil society?
I think that's interesting. I don't know if I think that many of the characters are nihilistic. Because I think that for the most part, at the very least, the image that they're trying to put forward is that because of how wealthy they have become, their life is valuable. And so, like, I feel like in order for you to just get to a point where you're like, none of it really matters, all of it's made up, all of it's fake, nothing that you do is going to make a difference.
Yeah.
You have to move away. Like, I think that it would require a level of self-reflection that these people typically in the book are either incapable of or willfully want to avoid. And like, I think that goes with our society as well, where it's like, if you can find something that gives meaning, even if your meaning is coming inside of a society that is like systemically oppressing, that doesn't necessarily make the value and the meaning that you found unimportant to you. It might be unimportant generally, but it's not unimportant to you, which is like the main thing. And so like I think that Pat Bateman and Tim Price both definitely are like becoming disillusioned with whether or not this world and this lifestyle has meaning. But I think Paul Owen, if he did in fact die, he died fully having drank the Kool-Aid. He's like,
yeah, I guess that's
in
true.
this to win this.
Because I just feel like I don't know, they ultimately, maybe it's more so because we're mostly getting Pat Bateman's perspective, but like they all probably feel like rather empty, whether they realize it or not. And I guess like for Tim Price, it caused him to just run off. We don't know what happened, but
Yeah.
in that time that he was just, but, and then for Pat Bateman, it caused him to just descend into madness. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, that was just something I was thinking about. But
Yeah. So before I move on to more Pat Bateman introspection quotes, I'm curious how you feel. Is this book a more interesting statement if everything in it happened, or is it more interesting if none of it happened?
So I was reading this review. It was really interesting. It was on this website. I don't know if this is, I'm not really sure what this is. Long Box of Darkness or something like this. Horror in Pop Culture and Beyond. And it was a review of American Psycho. And it was posted last November. Anyways, and in it there was a section about that question, like it, they said something along the lines of like every single thing that happens in the book can be interpreted in multiple ways, or every like event, like piece of plot. Yeah. Because like the murders could be real, and if they were, then like that's one critique of like, well, there was nothing happened. He didn't get caught. No one believed him. No justice was served. But if none of the murders actually happened, then it just shows like how crazy it actually went. And like, or it could be like a mixture, and like some did happen and some didn't. And so then you're feeling really confused. And anyways, but the, let me try to find what they said, because I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, okay. It said, the beauty of Ellis's writing is that both readings are equally disturbing. Either Bateman is a murderous psychopath, or he's so disconnected from reality that he's created elaborate fantasies of violence. And honestly, I'm not sure which is scarier. And I kind of agree with that, because I'm like, I think they're both really interesting ideas. I think maybe like a mixture would be like the interpretation I would want the most, is like, some of it was real, some of it wasn't. I don't think that I like the idea that Paul Owen's actually not dead, for example. Like that, I think that's more interesting. But like for some of the acts of violence, I'm like, okay, well, if that actually happened, I think that, like, for example, I don't like reading that scene, but like the homeless guy and his dog, like, actually that could happen and like no consequences might be served. Like that could really happen the way it did. And I think that's an interesting comment as well. So, you know, I don't know. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah. I definitely also, I think that it is a mark of a really good author that Ellis was committed enough to making it ambiguous, because then I think that you kind of get to you get to have your cake and eat it too. Of both interpretations are valid, and in fact it's like a Schrodinger's cat kind of situation where you have to take the book to mean both ideas at the same time, because you don't really know. Because in my mind, I feel like if everything in the book does happen, then the interpretation that you get as far as like the characterization of all of this happening is a much more systemic interpretation, where I feel like Pat Bateman is the enactment of capitalistic tendencies, and he is the one who is grinding down those around him in order to just try and feel anything, in order to do literally anything, or even without thinking about it, just because that's who he is and how he operates. He is a force of destruction. Whereas if you interpret it where none of it happens, then I think that Bateman becomes more of a victim of capitalism, where he's become so reduced and so subservient to the lifestyle that he's forced to live that he ends up in this totally fucked up headspace, imagining murders in order to feel powerful, because he lacks so much power in his life. He's like, the only way in which I could regain some of my autonomy is by doing something unbelievably heinous. That's the only thing that you can do in this world in order to be anything. You can't be good, you've just got to be evil. And so I think that it's really interesting that he's able to walk that line without committing to one interpretation or the other, so that you can both see this as an interpretation of an embodiment of the negatives in society, as well as what does this society turn you into if you are just a participant in it.
Yeah. I don't know that and this gets at like why I start to like not liking the amount, or the amount of violence, as well as like the graphic nature of the violence. Because that's where I start, especially if it's kind of just like this violence is like a symbol or a metaphor for what you become if you participate in society, and like what you have to do to feel something, and what you have to do to feel that you are more than just like a nameless, faceless like cog in the machine, or like if it's trying to critique like the moral corruption of society, whatever. Like if it's all a metaphor, if it didn't happen, for me, I'm like, why did we go this far then? Like it just feels unnecessary. Like it did, I don't know, like it didn't have to be so graphic. And I get that, like I just don't understand like how you come up with some of this as well. Like honestly, I'm like like why did you think of that? Like and so it's like that was like one of the big things I didn't like. I was just like, this feels unnecessary, kind of like we were saying, like you can get to a point where you get the point and you don't need to keep reading, and it just gets worse and worse. Like, you think it's bad at Bethany and then keeps going. And so for that, I'm like, I start having like an issue a little bit with the book. Yeah. And I start to side with the whatever. And no, the women, the whatever, the group
now.
The now. No, I don't side with them, but I'm kind of like, okay.
Yeah. And like, I think that is a totally understandable take and a totally reasonable critique of the book. I also, though, just like, I point towards how many people didn't get the point of it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I can totally understand that if you read this on the surface, it's a lot. And if you read this with an understanding of the message, it can still be a lot to read. But I feel like there's just so many people who have not gotten the message. Either, like, on both sides of it, where it's like you read it and you think that it has absolutely no redeeming literary quality because you didn't, like, take to heart the satirical elements of it. You didn't take to heart the societal critique that it's making. Or the other side of it, where you read it and you're like, hell yeah, make money, get bitches. And it's like, well, while I can understand and relate to, and like, well, I think that if this book is too much for you, it's not my place to say that it is not too much for you. That's just the objective or the subjective fact of your experience. I do think that it's tough to make a blanket statement of this book is too much. Like, taking the specific example of this book is too much for me and expanding that to it's just too much in general is a kind of hard thing to do, because if it was generally too much, then I think everybody would have had the same realization of, wow, that sure was a lot of violence, and Pat Bateman sure is a bad guy that I should not idolize.
Yeah. I also just think that, like, there's not really, it's a critique and even like a ridicule, but there's not a lot of, what am I trying to say? No one who isn't in that society is living a happy life either. Like, no one is living a fulfilling life. Like, I mean, we don't really get to, like, spend a lot of time with them, but, like, the people he interacts with at the video store, at the dry cleaners, or at random restaurants, or on the streets, or, I mean, clearly if you're unhoused, you're not, but, like, there's no redeeming character to, like, look to what could be the purpose of life or what could give you fulfillment. And not that a book has to do that, but I think that makes it hard to I guess I could kind of see how, like, no, I can't see. I was gonna say, like, I could kind of see how someone would be like, oh, well, yeah, don't murder women, but, like, Pat Bateman's really on his grind and he's got a good skincare routine, because there's no other better option to look to, but that's also a stretch, like I say. I don't know. I guess, like, it serves as a great critique, but I think that because of, like, the intensity of it, it's like I maybe was wanting for, like, one character that I could, like, not identify with, but, like, hope for, or, like, root for, or, like, see as, like, the good in the world, but maybe there's not, maybe there's no exit, like, there's no good. And so I guess I see it just, like, it's hard to, like, imagine, like, I can see why someone would read it and be like, okay, yeah, the world's bad. This is graphic. Why did I need this to tell me? And so I guess I'm saying I can see those points of views a little bit because of, like, the lack of any, like, good character in any way.
Yeah.
But I know that wasn't what he wanted to do with this book, so.
Yeah. It's definitely a book that's more interested in pointing things out that are wrong with the world than it is in providing solutions for how to fix it. Like, that's definitely true. And so, like, I feel like the closest that you get to a good character is Jean or maybe Bethany, and neither of them are, like, great people, and they have their flaws, and neither of them, I mean, by the end of the book, it seems like Jean is still, like, in the same place, but Bethany does not in any way get rewarded for being possibly a good person.
And Jean's not really, like, Jean has, like, the first job a woman could ever have, basically. Like, she doesn't, like, she doesn't have, like, I don't know, she's, like, pining after a man that is a terrible person. And I mean, I think maybe she sees, like, a bit of his humanity, and, like, I guess, I don't know.
That brings me to the, like, last quote that I was going to talk about, where it's the scene where she's kind of relaying the humanity that she sees in him. Pat Bateman and Jean are having dinner, and while she's basically confessing love for this guy as a result of his compassion and humanity and the fact that he's just, like, a fun guy to be around, his internal dialogue is him examining the world in which he lives in and his own, like, role in it. And it says, "Where there was earth and nature, life and water, I saw a desert landscape that was unending, resembling some sort of crater, so devoid of reason and light and spirit that the mind could not grasp it on any sort of conscious level, and if you came close, the mind would reel backward, unable to take it in. It was a vision so clear and real and vital to me that in its purity it was almost abstract. This was what I could not understand. This was how I lived my life, what I constructed my movement around, how I dealt with the tangible. This was the geography around which my reality revolved. It did not occur to me, ever, that people were good, or that a man was capable of change, or that the world could be a better place through one's taking pleasure in a feeling or a look or a gesture, of receiving another person's love or kindness. Nothing was affirmative. The term generosity of spirit applied to nothing was a cliché, was some kind of bad joke. Sex is mathematics. Individuality no longer an issue. What does intelligence signify? Define reason. Desire, meaningless. Intellect is not a cure. Justice is dead. Fear, recrimination, innocence, sympathy, guilt, waste, failure, grief were things, emotions, that no one really felt anymore. Reflection is useless. The world is senseless. Evil is its only permanence. God is not alive. Love cannot be trusted. Surface, surface, surface was all that anyone found meaning in. This was civilization as I saw it, colossal and jagged." So again, like, going to your point, like, this is exactly what you were saying. Everything sucks. It's all shit.
Yeah. I guess, like, Jean... No, it's not enough for me. I was going to say, like... like, because he doesn't kill her, even though he's fantasizing about it. And so it's, like, a moment of human connection. And, like, one of... Like, maybe the only moment, really.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's not enough, like, to be like, oh, it's possible.
I think that you can take away from it the opposite of what he's saying, of, like, by refusing to allow your life to only become surface level, you can have that meaning that makes your life worth something, and you're just viewing world through the culmination of pushing all of your cares and all of your thoughts, all of your ideals to the surface. Like if you follow what they tell you to do and you strip your soul in order to appear the way that you're supposed to appear, your life becomes meaningless. Whereas if you reject that surface level impulse and instead retain some degree of self-satisfaction, as long as you're able to feel the touch of another person and find joy in that, it's not too late. Like there's still something to hope for. But again, that's relying on you taking the book's ideas and messages and assuming that it is also stating the inverse, that it's not just saying everything is bad when it's surface level. You have to assume that it also is stating things are better when it's not.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch, but I also I think that something I liked about it was because not only do Patrick Bateman and Timothy Price and Paul Owen and all these interchangeable men themselves lack humanity and the ability to see themselves as more than just status, but they also lack that they don't see anyone as more than status.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this a little bit, but it's evident in the way they treat and talk to homeless people and people who are just sex workers, or people who are working in a restaurant or working in a shop on the street, or just anyone. And I mean the blatant racism and homophobia throughout that Pat Bateman exhibits, but also everyone else. It's jarring to hear the things they say and the way they talk to these people, and it feels sometimes like an exaggeration, but at the same time there are people who genuinely think that every unhoused person is a waste of space, and just if you can't get yourself a job and get off the street, then what's the point of your life? There are people who think that
mm-hmm.
out there, and I think that's the intensity of that, while hard to read at sometimes, was really, for me, hit very hard for the critique of the way that our society is set up.
Mm-hmm.
This is how the world feels about these people. This is how they're viewed. This is how they have no mobility. They have no you're starting if you aren't born white, you're starting from a very different ground than you're 20 stories below everyone else. And I thought that was weirdly well done, even though, because I mean it's I don't know, at first I was kind of I don't especially I'm listening to it, listening to slur after slur, and and the way that he would tease people, hold money in front of them and then be no, go get a job, ha ha ha, you stupid. But it's really interesting. I don't know if we're to the point of talking about how these things are relevant today or not.
If you'd like to, go ahead.
Well, specifically in terms of unhoused people,
mm-hmm.
it's actually really interesting because I live in New York City, and there's a lot of people who are asking for money, or who are sleeping on benches or in the subway, and something that happens pretty frequently that sometimes makes me feel I'm not made for New York City, is that like people come on subway cars and they will ask for money, but they like usually like prepare like some kind of speech or something where they are like saying like, hi, this is my name and this is what's happened to me, and like anything would help, please. And for the most part, because it's just so ever present in New York City, in this urban like world, most people don't look up. Most people don't listen. Most people pay no mind. Most people, like, you see someone who is like in a crisis, most people don't even pay attention. Like, I feel like New Yorkers are known for that. They just like one track. They're not looking around them and seeing everything that's happening around them. And it still kind of like baffles me. Like, obviously I as a person don't really have the means to help if I tried to help every single person I passed in some way, then I couldn't. Like, I don't have the money, I don't have the resources. But like, I don't know, it kind of baffles me the way that just people don't even pay attention. And I was just talking about this with someone because like, I don't know these people's situations, and like, you know, it's not, people might be lying, they might not, I don't really care, none of my business. But like, for you to take the time to prepare something to say in front of a group of people who you know, or most of them aren't going to even give you a glance, and you're thinking about, how can I say this that people will receive it, and like, how can I not be too like abrasive and not sound too like I'm asking too much, but also like get them to empathize with me. And like I think about like what goes into just them doing that once, and some people, they're doing that every day, and that's so brave and heartbreaking to me. And people just don't even notice. They just and I've even heard people make comments like, oh, not this again, like, oh, I've just had a long day at work, I just want peace, and like things like that, or like, oh, get out of here. And like, you know, I get it. I get like you've had a long day at work and you don't want to deal with that, and they maybe smell bad because they don't have access to anything to like clean themselves, or it's like they're a human. I don't know, and it just baffles me that it's like that in this book, like especially just living here, like living in the setting. I was like, whoa. Yeah.
I feel like of all the books that we've talked about, this is one of the ones that's calling attention to one of the most, like, I don't know, at times one of the more emotional social issues. Because it's tough to live in a society with systemic problems that doesn't have systemic solutions, where it's like you said, like, you just, no one person has or at least no one person that's going to be out walking the streets in New York has the capacity to meaningfully impact the living conditions of this entire community of people. It's something that has to be a systemic solution that is just not provided and is not an option. And that's just a really hard thing to think about, is that there's just not really much you as an individual can do.
Yeah, and so I get that maybe it's easier, or you become like not immune, but just like you're accustomed to encountering that and knowing there's nothing you can do. But it is just crazy to me that that's like such a regular thing about the day-to-day life that is just accepted as something that's gonna happen. And it's like, that's really sad.
But with that conversation out of the way, let's have a brief look at the bookmarks of satire for American Psycho. So, if you are new to the podcast, maybe this is your first series and you are unfamiliar, the bookmarks of satire are just 5 elements that the majority of satirical works employ in order to convey their message. These are basically the things that make satire satire. And so for every book we go through the 5, talk about what the piece of media does or doesn't do and kind of rate just how satirical we think that it is. So up first is humor, which this book was way funnier than I thought that it was going to be.
Yeah. No, it's definitely funny. Sometimes. But, yeah.
Then is exaggeration, which I would also say that it is doing. Like, the people who work on Wall Street are not literally sociopathic killers for the most part.
Yeah. I hope not. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have ridicule, which I think so. I think that the character of Pat Bateman is meant to be ridiculed.
Mm-hmm.
Even if some people don't get that.
Yeah. No, like I think some of the aspects of him that people like want to participate in, I think are like hilarious, and I would make fun of him for if I met him in real life. Well, I would really hope not to meet him, but yeah.
Next is critique, which I also think that this is doing some criticizing of society and this specific kind of guy. And last is irony. Is this book being ironic? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that I have... It's tough. Most books just aren't ironic.
All the way through.
In my envisioning.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like there's ironic moments in a lot of books, but if, like, the book as a whole, yeah.
I think that this probably has a couple of instances where it uses irony, but I just wouldn't say that it is using irony as much as it's using any of the other ones. So I would give this book 4 bookmarks out of 5.
Yeah.
Now, we've still got our review and ranking to do, but before we give you our review, we're going to look at your reviews. So I have picked out 4 one-star Goodreads reviews that we are going to read to see what other people think about this book.
Okay. This review is from Chantel, who gave it 1 star and said, absolutely ridiculous, DNF at 41%. It was stupid and boring, and outside Easton Ellis's incredible maniacal eye for men's fashion, it was just unenjoyable, lifeless, miserable. Well,
I love having read this book and being like, the best part is when he describes suits.
Like, that was like maybe not the worst part, but like that was a boring part of it. It was funny, but it was like
yeah, it was funny, but it was definitely a slog to get through. The first review that I'm going to read is from Stacia, who reviewed this in 2016 and gave it 1 star. See Pat date. See Pat screw. See Pat mace. See Pat use a nail gun. See Pat eat flesh. See Pat do obscene things with a severed head. See Pat store body parts in random places. Go Pat go.
that was a crazy review.
I love the concept of taking American Psycho and turning it into a kid's book is so funny to me.
That's crazy. This is one book, not our last book, the book before that we covered, we talked a lot about censorship and like book banning. And this is one book I don't think should be in any school's library.
It is one that, as far as I know it was when it originally came out. I think it still is sold like wrapped up in plastic in Australia at the very least. Like, there's a couple of places where it's like restricted access.
Yeah, no, I don't think any school library should have this book, but, just maybe a bit much for... Okay, this person, Salem in 2023, gave it 1 star and said, I hate this book. It's one of my least favorite books I've ever read. I'm sorry. It makes perfect sense that Brett Ellis and Donna Tartt are close friends. Because, good Lord, he does not shut the fuck up ever. If Ellis needed to shut the fuck up to save the world, we'd all be dead. Donna Tartt catching strays. That's...
I can't believe it. This author can't shut the fuck up in his own book.
I wonder which Donna Tartt book Salem read also that made them hate Donna Tartt as well.
That's a good question. I don't know. But, I mean, all of Donna Tartt's books are, like, pretty lengthy.
They're lengthy. They can also be not just... overly descriptive is the wrong word, but they can kind of drone on a bit, I guess. So, yeah.
Last, we've got a 1-star review from Mark Monday from 2018. Ever see that video Criminal? The one where a winsome and pathetic Fiona Apple is surrounded by empty beer bottles and video equipment as she writhes sadly in a closet, in the backseat of a car, and in a tub as some dude rubs his feet all over her face? Ugh. This book is like that shitty, creepy video, except times 100. Just thinking about parts of it makes me want to take a shower and rinse the muck off. Criminal had artsy direction by an interesting director that I like, Mark Romanek. American Psycho is also interesting, intelligent, and stylishly written with some points to make about consumer culture, class, and male egotism. But I don't give a flying fuckaroo about interesting points or stylishness or intelligence when the vehicle you're using to express those points is one built on pure degradation and creepy self-indulgence. You may be making your points, but you are also making me sick. Congratulations.
That was a really roundabout way of saying that, but yeah.
I love you may be making your points, but you are also making me sick.
You're also making me sick. I felt that way.
Yeah. So, those are your reviews, but let's get into our reviews. I'm going to come in hot and heavy. I think this is the best book we've read. I think this is a 5-star book for me. I think that it's a lot at times, and I could argue the position of it being 4 stars, but I loved this book.
And you're entitled to that.
As a white man, I know I'm entitled.
You're probably right, because you're... So, I would give it 3 stars.
Okay.
It's like I would literally never read this book again, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. But like I said, it's like I would only have read this book probably if I was given it as an assignment in class, or because I was the co-host of a podcast about satirical novels. And if I was given it as an assignment in class, I would similarly feel like I respected it as a piece of literature. But honestly, I don't think if I was trying to think about it, I don't know, I'm pretty smart. But I think I'm making an effort to recognize it as a piece of satire and as what are its literary elements and what's it trying to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about it a lot, and you would do that in a class as well. And so I think I would always have had respect for this book, but I don't think there's a situation I would have read this that I would have been I liked that, I enjoyed that book.
It's kind of like Vegetables, the book. It's good, but you might not like it.
Yeah, And it's just like, I think that there's a lot of things I would have rather not been in there, and I think the point still would have came across. And for me, if a book can be DNF'd and you can still totally get the point, then I'm like, that's not enough. That's not good enough.
Yeah.
But you know, I haven't seen the movie yet. We're gonna spoiler watch it for the next episode. But potentially, depending on how different the movie is from the book, I might just be like, maybe just watch the movie. Like if someone was like,
Yeah.
but I don't know. So yeah.
So that gives us an average ranking for the podcast of a 4-star. Yet again, we've got a lot of 4-star books for the podcast.
Yeah, we don't have any
But
5-star books.
No, not consensus 5 stars. No consensus Satire Fire bangers yet, but we'll get there one day. So, before we close out, we do have to rank this book on our ever-expanding list of every satirical book ever written. As a reminder, right now, the best book that we've read so far, or at least our favorite, was 1984 by George Orwell. And then the worst is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. But Sid, where do you see this slotting in? I will not accept a starting offer lower than 5th. I think it's better than that, but there's no way you can convince me it's worse than Brave New World.
No, I don't think it's worse than Brave New World. Trying to think about, so we've got, it goes 1984, then Slapstick, Lula Dean,
then Her Body and Other Parties, Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451.
So when we do this, or at least for me, when we do this ranking, I try to think about how good of satire it is, more so than how much I liked it. And so, like, if you wanted to put it above Lula Dean,
that's kind of where I feel
we could.
It should go, is like 3rd place, because I think that it's more, I think it's a better satire than Her Body and Other Parties, and I think it's a better book than Lula Dean.
Yeah.
Okay, so we finally had a shake-up of our top 3, with it's now being 1984 by George Orwell as first, Slapstick by Kurt Vonnegut is the second best, and American Psycho by Brett Easton Ellis is currently residing as the 3rd best satirical book ever written.
Yay.
So that will do it for this week. As Sydney mentioned, next week we're going to have a interlude episode so that we have a little bit more time to prep for the next series, and so you can also get a little bit more time to read the book if you would like to before we start that. And that interlude episode is going to be the American Psycho movie starring Christian Bale. So if you want to watch that before next week, go ahead, and we will be here to talk about it. In the meantime, though, please rate us 5 stars wherever you're listening. Be sure to follow. Leave us a comment about how you feel about the American Psycho book and how you feel about our rankings of all the books so far. Tell a friend about the show. We love it when you refer us to other people. And our intro and outro are remixes of the song 48 by Cullah. Now, Sydney, would you like to tell people both where they can find us in between episodes if they would like to, as well as what our next series is going to be?
Yeah, so if you want to interact with us between now and next Sunday, you can find us on Instagram at the Satire Fire Pod, Pod. We're on TikTok, Blue Sky, and YouTube at the Satire Fire. And, follow us, like our videos and our posts, comment, share, whatever feels right for you, we appreciate it.
However the spirit moves you.
However the spirit moves you. We love like discourse. Like if we want to know your thoughts on the episodes we're doing, on the books or the other satirical media we're consuming. So yeah, just let us know. And then after we do our interlude episode, like Samuel mentioned, we'll be starting our next book, and we will be talking about Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Very exciting. I'm excited to cover a Jane Austen book. And this one is a little bit, it's a little spooky, kind of, I don't know, gothic in nature. Definitely. So I think it's fitting for this month.
Awesome. Well, that is going to do it for us for this week. Thank you for listening to the Satire Fire podcast, and do not forget to support your local library. I am Samuel.
I'm Sydney.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
I just about come to the end of the road. Here, I've just about lost patience with you people. You get your ass out into the mountains or someplace, or hide in there and watch that damn tube. But if not, fuck it. I'm done. In fact, my sermon